Hello everyone, welcome to my course. In this section, we'll talk particularly about Copilot context window. So as we have seen in previous videos, uh, there's something called as context. Context engineering we have talked about at a very high level, and we'll do it in subsequent chapters. But Copilot, as such, has no memory on its own, so it has a context, a window which is also called as context. Context window is something that is total amount of information the AI can see at one time. So context window is the information that we share with our prompt, and then Copilot processes it and then sends us information back. So a context window typically includes the system instructions in case we have any hidden instructions in Copilot. So that is also considered as a context. So any message that you send to a Copilot prompt, that is also considered as a context. So in case you have asked any questions in past in chat history, so that is also considered as a context. If any if any files are opened in your editor, that is also considered as a context. So those files that are open in the editor will also be sent as a context to Copilot. In case you are using any tools, for example, any MCP, see MCPs or any tools that are internal to your Visual Studio Code, so those also can be considered as context. If there are any custom rules configured, for example, any agents or skills, so those will also be considered as context and will be sent to Copilot. So basically, there are two types of context. So one is implicit context, where we don't provide any specific information while sending our prompts. Basically, we don't send it explicitly, so that's why it is called as implicit context. So for example, if any file is opened in the editor and it is active file, means it is opened in their uh, expanded mode. So that is also considered as in context and sent to the Copilot. So in case we have selected any text or highlighted any code, so Copilot understands that as a selection and also sends it as a context to Copilot as for processing. So in case any visible errors are present in the screen in the VS Code, for example, red squiggling lines, right? Whenever we write code, so in case of any linting errors or something, so those are also sent as a context to Copilot. So if we are using version control as Git, the state, for example, some files that are changed, and if any diff is available, so that is also sent as a context. So Copilot also understand context as file names. In case the file name is test underscore or.py, so it is understood that this is a test file. And then the second type of context is explicit context. So by default, it will not go to the Copilot prompts, but we need to manually provide it so that our question becomes relevant. So for example, in case we wanted the prompt to refer any particular file, so we have to explicitly use hash command to send it as a file name. So hash file will prompt you to give a file name where you can give this file name, and then using this you can give this file name as a context to the Copilot. So in case you are working with the entire folders, so you can also give the file prompt to the folder. So in case there are any target code symbols, classes, methods or functions, you can also use it using symbol. So in case you want to search any web URL, so you can also use it by using fetch. So for example, in our context, we wanted to include any particular website to be referred. So we could also use slash fetch, and then that website will be passed via GitHub Copilot to get the information. In case we sometime need to send the terminal prompts or terminal output as a context, so we can send it using hash terminal. Now, in case we want to analyze the full code base, so this is a prompt called as hash code base for semantic search, and it can give the complete code base. We can also give git changes using slash changes. So these context is something which is explicit, but doesn't goes by default, but can be given whenever we wanted to give it. So now it is very important to understand the value of context. I'll just open my VS Code and show. For example, in my VS Code, as you can see, this particular message, I have asked different questions to my VS Code and given a context, right? So as you can see in the bottom, this is my context. So I have consumed 7% of my context. So total 264,000 tokens can be given, but out of which I have only given 18,000 tokens. So the best practice as recommended by Microsoft and GitHub is it should not go beyond 50% or a maximum of 80%. So we should not be giving a lot of context for this calculation. So this ideally should be in the range of 50 to 80%. Okay. So now sometimes we need to give context, but there are a lot of questions, and if still we have to increase that context, there's something called as compaction. So in case we do this compact, it will free up context by compacting the conversation. So in case any unrelevant thing which we have not accepted in the past while the conversation, so those will be ignored and our context window will optimize. So for example, I'll just make it as compact. I mean, I have not given a lot of instructions in the chat, but still it will try to optimize it for me and then reduce my context window size. So this is one way where we can compact our existing conversation. So now coming to the compaction, the core idea between for compaction is Copilot has a limited memory tokens, which includes your chat, files, logs, and when we use a lot of files or logs, it will fill very quickly. So at 80%, whenever this window goes 80%, so automatically the compaction starts. But this can be done manually, as I've shown in this particular example in my VS Code. So right now I've triggered the compaction manually. Okay. So it has compacted conversation as much as it could. So context engineering in terms of power user thinking. Prompt engineering is something that a user should ask better question. So prompt engineering is a systematic process of improving the questions that we ask to the AI or our chat models. So it is a process of the core idea is to ask better questions. In terms of context engineering, give AI the right setup first. So if the context is proper, the responses that we get from AI are quite relevant. And it's a one-time setup. I mean, you can always get better answer if you use the correct prompt engineering and context engineering techniques. So there are different ways of doing this. So you should always curate your context. So in case you have some task that you are repeatedly doing, a kind of a boilerplate code, you always set up a copilot instruction.md file where you write your instruction on what context should be taken. You can also define your architecture and rules and standard. Whenever you load your new chat, automatically all these contexts are loaded in your chat. So uh, we should always be using reusable prompts. In case slash is the command to use different predefined prompts. So those should be used always because it optimizes your uh, I mean prompts. So Microsoft has given some predefined prompts. So when you use it, it will try to use the optimal value from it. And generate code, use custom agents. For example, will agents with fixed roles. So you should always be using agents, but in a control mode or fixed roles. So you should not allow agents to use as much as context, or I mean, you should not allow agents to go beyond the topics which they are intended to. So, for example, agent for writing code should have a clear instruction on what type of quality code it should write, what should be the predefined rules that it should follow while writing the code. Thank you. I think this covers